second. We're live. Now we're live.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning. I just have a few little announcements before we start. So Jenny Minich's and Dr. Kiltz's podcast was just released. It is on Dr. Kiltz's channel. So after this, go watch that lovely conversation. Also, I have set up so you can become a channel member if you'd like to support the channel. And our first channel member is Sophie Sundar. Congratulations. Thank you. There we go. Those are my two announcements for the morning. Oh, we have a giveaway. What should we give away today? We should give away a Kiltz's Keto is Carnivore book. There you go. Kiltz's Keto is Carnivore. Woohoo! Hashtag KMT for a chance to win.
How do you do this giveaway thing?
So StreamYard has a tool where you go StreamYard like up at the in the bar, whatever, and the bar
URL.
You open
URL.
another StreamYard / giveaway.
Fabulous.
Yeah. And then so that you do a hashtag, you put a hashtag in whatever you'd like it to be. We use KMT for Kiltz Mighty Tribe, and it selects a winner at the end. You press a button and it selects a winner.
So good. What if they're in the UK? Do they get the book?
They get the book, yes. Yes, I can ship it to the UK.
Wow.
I can ship it all over. I've shipped it to somewhere in the middle of South Africa, actually.
Do you want to give away my guide to the Bloods book?
Sure.
How can we organize, add that too?
Yeah.
Sure. Is it on Amazon?
It is, yeah.
Great. We'll give that away.
Second edition. Yep, brilliant. No problem with that.
Cool. You win 2 books today. Awesome. All right. There you go. Well, you're Coach Stephen Thomas. Are you Coach Stephen?
Hello.
Or just hello.
I'm just Stephen.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's fine. But I am known sometimes as Coach Stephen or that bloke with the weird teeth.
That's hilarious.
The Bloods guy sometimes, so yeah.
Blood work guy.
The blood work guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It's a beautiful day in God's universe. Today we have Stephen Thomas, Coach Stephen from the UK, sharing his knowledge on a healthy lifestyle and how to heal whatever's ailing you.
Yeah. Do you want my story? Do you want
Your
my story? Rob?
Please, how you doing today? And your story be great.
I'm doing really well. And I want to thank you for being so generous with your time when I met you at Meat Stock, which was really good, Robert. Thank you so much. And I think Britain is finally getting meetups, thanks to people like yourself and Chafee and Kimberly and Bella, all doing their own meetups. I think it's great because we've just done one in Glastonbury and we've got another one next week, the Ancestral Health Festival. So we're picking up. Anyway, my story. Hi, George. Good morning, by the way. Well, I started off like most people, indoctrinated into the food guidelines. And if we go even further back, so were my parents. And they both died pretty young, which is pretty sad. Both with a misdiagnosis. My dad died when I was 10. He was told he had a calcium deficiency. A week later, he was dead with cancer of the spine. My mother was told to lose weight. She was overweight. And actually, it was a 9-pound cancer growth. She died when I was 23. I went deaf when I was 23 as well. So I wear hearing aids. I've got the subtitles on. I lip read. Incidentally, fun facts for people. If John, you're out there listening, who never ever comments. A fun fact is only 50% of words are lip readable. So it's all about context as well. These hearing aids are fantastic. I upgraded after wearing the same ones for 8 years. So there you go, John. Little fun fact for you. Right. Okay. So I went into my life eating grains and eating cereal and skim milk and blueberries and maple syrup and bananas. Hence, I've got really bad teeth. That is all down to carbs. Virtually every teeth was filled by the time I was literally since I'm about 20. Anyway, right. So I was an athlete and I listened to Robert's show recently where we were talking about the word athlete. Are humans athletes? Well, they can be if they put the work in. But anyway, and I was a middle distance runner. I won a singles tournament in tennis. I'm only 5'10", so that's quite hard to do when you're a little guy like me. But I think it was tenacity, because I had a very poor upbringing. Outside toilet, no central heating. Seriously, I sound like a child of Charles Dickens, don't I? And I did all the fitness stuff. All right. And when I was 24, I did a bodybuilding show, natural, no steroids. And I really thought I was doing really well. And all the stuff I now believe, if I'd have gone back to that 25-year-old version of me, I wouldn't believe anything I'm saying. I can remember flicking through Muscle and Fitness magazine and seeing that they were testing a high-fat diet, and me going, well, that won't work. How ridiculous. And I've always been interested in fitness. I'm going to fast forward now, Robert. Sorry, a bit of a long story. But when I got into my 40s, I was really interested in sport. I'd become an advanced personal trainer. And the turning point, I suppose, in one respect, was I had an athlete, a genuine athlete, who wanted to get to the Olympics. And she was a type 1 diabetic. And this is where it all locks in. And I did. I got her to the Olympics, javelin thrower. She did it. She put the work in. But what we found, and it's very interesting, is everything I'd been taught about type 1 diabetics training didn't hold true. And she'd lived this experience as well. She realized that the high carb diet was not good for her. Because she was a serious athlete and looking at empirical data at the time, she realized that her blood glucose management was ruined by carbohydrates. Now, I had at this time been qualified as a specialist practitioner in obesity and diabetes. So I still believed all the high carb stuff. I've been indoctrinated. But we shook our heads and we realized that this wasn't working. I was also doing a clinical practice, where everybody that was doing well, which was like 1 in 10 people, when I asked them, what are you doing? Don't forget, this is in my 40s. They were all saying the same thing. They didn't say carnivore. They said Atkins. They didn't say low carb, really. They just said, we're cutting the carbs. They didn't say ketogenic, because that really wasn't a phrase then. But the common denominator was cutting out. You're going to love the next bit, Robert. They were cutting out plants. They were cutting out cereals. They were cutting out grains, bread, potatoes, pasta, rice was all coming out. I didn't say sugar, did I? But that's what they were saying. Of course, we all know that is sugar. Anyway, and it made me think. And it took me 5 years till my 50th birthday to actually try low carb keto myself. And that was a game changer. I will just dial back as well. This is when I started my interest in bloods, and I became a qualified phlebotomist, and I ran a private blood testing lab for about 10 years. Because what was happening was the fit people, their bloods, when the doctor, because we sent them away, there was always doctor's comments. The doctor's comments, who never saw the person, didn't match the person in front of me, the clinical experience of the person in front of me. This is really why I wrote the book, to be honest. And it was incredible. It was really like the scales being removed from my eyes. So I'm trying to get the biblical references in for Mr. Kiltz's audience there. But it really was like that. And when I got to 50, I decided to go low carb. What were my ailments? I was pre-diabetic on the way to being diabetic. A lower left quadrant pain. Now, my mum died of colon cancer. I had a colonoscopy. I was absolutely at that time convinced it's all genetics. This is it. Remember sitting in the waiting room to get the results and looking at people around me thinking, we're all here to die. This is it. I'm going to die. I've got colon cancer. My mum had it. I'm getting pains in exactly the same region. I'm only 50. This is frightening. I also had a coronary artery calcium scan. It was 639, which is pretty bad. I mean, it's not as bad as Bill Clinton's 1,000 score when he had his triple bypass, but it's still pretty bad. So I had a stress spot here, which looked like someone had got a strawberry and smacked against my forehead. And I've got something to tell Robert about hair gel. But anyway, and I was a state, and yet I was eating less, moving more. What a terrible recipe! Moving more because you're saying to your body, I need more nutrients, and eating less nutrients. How ridiculous is that phrase before you even started? But anyway, so I was doing all that. Forget all that. Got to 50, went low carb, and everything started improving. 3 years of low carb, I thought, I'm removing the carbohydrates, doing so much better. Why don't I go keto, remove them even more? And then when I got to age 55, which was 6 years ago, because I'm a spring chicken, I'm only 61. Robert's 70, I believe. And I joined MeatRx by the wonderful Sean Baker, who really, he puts the effort in, he puts the time in. Every single day we did meetings, 5 p.m. in the UK for an hour. He'd be there every single day, except the occasional time when he was doing podcasts or he was away. And I was very proud that he asked me to stand in for him, which was, a bit of a badge of honor. Great guy. And things just got better and better and better. So my body composition improved. I'm not pre-diabetic. My HDL, but it isn't cholesterol, but it's a molecule, isn't it? But anyway, we call it HDL cholesterol. That's really high. I've got low triglycerides if we're getting into the bloods and all that sort of stuff. I've got LDL that would make my cardiologist have a heart attack, but I don't care about that. And that's simply my journey. And then, of course, I decided to spread the word on YouTube. So I've got a small but wonderful area on YouTube where we do a live stream with the very shy and retiring Richard Smith, who, it's very difficult to get an answer out of him for anything. We do that every Sunday at 7 p.m. And we spread the word. We've got a school community because the common unity of people in the carnivore space is really, really important. I know you've got Kiltz's mighty tribe. Just having people to connect with is so important. I can't get over it. I mean, when we went to Meat Stock and I was actually able to shake Robert's hand when he came over for Healing Humanity, it's just really nice to get that face-to-face connection. But guys, this is the best we've got a lot of the times, these screens. But when you're writing personal messages and you're seeing people get better, and you're not the weirdo that your family think you are, it's vitally important. So that's my story in a nutshell. I've got so many people to thank that have taught me stuff, in the UK, like I say, Richard Smith, Lee Copus, Carnivore Muscle, Dr. Abs, we've got a great little team here. And the Americans that I've met online, Robert, you're so kind with your time. Anthony Chafee, top bloke. Sean, really good. Bella's been brilliant. Just so many people all saying the same thing-ish. It's a community and it's wonderful.
What did you want to say? You said there was something else you wanted to say.
Oh yeah, I got a tip for you, because I noticed you took about your hair gel and you said there's sugar in this. Well, my hair gel is water and salt, homemade. And you get as much sticky, when it's not sticky, it puts it in place, but you don't get the stickiness. So if you want to have carnivore hair, salt and water, a little bit of salt in water.
Or butter.
Yeah, if you want that sort of Elvis look, maybe.
Yeah, I just cut it off and that solved everything.
Yep. Paul, I've just noticed Paul has said, has Stephen gotten another CSE score since starting Carnivore? Right. The NHS, right, the UK is controlled. I want to say this morning, only this morning, on WhatsApp, you should go to your contacts, click on the contact and put privacy chat on. Because as from today in the UK, if you don't, all your messages are going to be scanned. Absolutely factual. Right. The waiting list on the NHS, and it's not the people in the NHS, it's the system. It's not doctors and nurses. They're in a system that's absolutely right. The waiting list for those machines is quite huge. We've got a terrible system at the moment. And there's no way I'm going to jump that queue by paying some money to get in front of everybody else. So as soon as those queues have gone down, I will be getting a CAC score, but not while there are literally millions of people waiting for treatment. Can't do it. Just can't do it with good conscience, because that's how it works. If I go on that machine, I get that radiologist, I get that cardiologist, and I get them for like 30 minutes, and that's somebody else's appointment I'm taking, who's probably in a far worse state than me. And it really upsets me, because it would be nice to have the CAC score, but I also have a little bit of moral humility about me.
So could you privatize some of these testing, offering it at a discount price for more people? And I mean, it doesn't cost that much in America. It's reasonably priced.
Yep.
You can get it. Oh, by the way, mine's 700, my CAC score. My CT angiogram had minimal narrowing of my circumflex, and that was about it. And so I have high cholesterol. My grandmother lived 104, my parents 94. And so diagnostic testing isn't exact either. And a CAC score of 0 doesn't mean you won't die of a heart attack, and having a 700 doesn't mean you will.
Absolutely. I mean, that's my big thing about bloods, because you can have a perfect set of bloods and be very, very sick, and you can have bloods that are allegedly awful and be in perfect health, which is a big thing. Yes, right. Okay. I often complain that we get too political, but I did actually go to my MP many, many years ago and have tea at the Houses of Parliament and made a suggestion, because we have a thing called national insurance here, which we pay on all income, and part of that funds the NHS. And my suggestion was, and you're going to really like the kicker answer, by the way, was, why don't we take that money that is funding other people and put it into our own little private healthcare system, insurance policy? So when we pay our national insurance, we're literally just using our money. We're not taking other people's money. We're taking our own. And
because it makes too much sense.
do you know what, Dr. Nelson?
Government
Yep.
always wants to participate.
Yep. And that was exactly, at least it was honest, my MP's answer. That's so simple. It can't be true. And I'm like, yes. But anyway, they won't do it exactly for that reason. They lose the control.
But could you do it aside from the government anyway? And
yeah, you got things like Bupa. Yeah,
and they're doing it in America. People are doing that. They're creating sort of more group policies. But is that what makes us healthy, or what you're sharing, which has nothing to do with health insurance or government policies or the healthcare system? What is the very best way to make individually ourselves as healthy as can be?
Yeah, well, this is such a big topic, because don't forget, I was brainwashed or grain washed, as I like to call it.
That's a
people
good
taking
one.
ownership. People taking ownership of their own health would obviously be great, but there's still too many people that believe the TV or believe the doctor that they've seen on, an early morning chat show. I can tell you something. The thing is, the stuff we are saying is free. All right. I'll give you a really shocking statistic. And as a diabetic specialist practitioner, I should tell people this more. Do you know, if you eat outside rather than inside, it's been proven that your blood glucose spike, hate the word spike, but we all know what that means, can be reduced by 28%. That was what the study showed. That was an average reduction in blood sugar spikes just by eating outside. But that's completely free. That's getting away from the couch, getting away from the TV. Don't have a TV dinner. I mean, I think sitting at a table, some people don't even do that. They eat on their lap. But if you're looking to control blood glucose, go and sit outside. That is completely free. Completely and utterly free. One simple thing you can do. Well, getting outside, moving, motion is lotion. We know that is true as well. But these sound so simple and easy, and a lot of people shake their heads out. It can't be that simple. And it is. It is that simple. It is about connection. It is about getting outside. It is about not watching the TV. There is the joke about why have the Amish not got the big disease that was happening over the last 4 years. It's because they don't have a television. So this is the thing. We've got to get away from the screens, get back to people, eat the species appropriate way, what we should be eating, and just don't eat the junk. I mean, really, when I started the YouTube channel, I remember I got a lot of comments was, why do you need this channel? Because just eat meat. And I'm like, yeah, you would think I don't need this channel, but there are millions and millions of people that don't believe it. So we have to do the success stories, for instance, just a myriad of success stories. And they're remarkable. And people say, well, is it carnivore that's doing this? And I always say, well, actually, it's not really carnivore. It's the person taking control of their health.
Who is the carnivore?
Well, who?
No, no, the human
The person.
is the carnivore.
Yes, it's
So
a
a
human.
little double. A little. We came out of the trees to eat the grass. Eaters, not the grass. We are carnivores. We're just applying our species-specific diet. And
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Ken Berry's work of genius, one of the biggest things he did was the proper human diet. So brilliant. I think it's actually better than the term carnivore because it says it, doesn't it? It's the proper human diet, the thing we're supposed to eat.
well, there's
going
only
back-
3 diets:
Go on then.
herbivore, carnivore, omnivore. Those are
Yes.
the only diets in this universe, right? And
Mm.
and but ultimately, would you say we are omnivores and we're capable of eating anything?
I would say we're carnivores, but we're capable of eating anything because predominantly we have eaten meat and the fat of the meat for millions of years.
Well, the action of who and what we do, because I'm imagining we might have eaten plants, then animals, then
Yep.
plants, and animals, but we're telling a story essentially.
Well,
And
that's right. Yeah.
are iguanas good for humans?
In what respect? As pets, they're fantastic.
Well. I'm just commenting because our good friend Rick is an iguana hunter and eater, and there was just Apple News had an article. Is it legal to shoot invasive iguanas in Palm Beach County, Florida? Here's what to know. So obviously, people eat mice and rats and possums and all sorts of organisms that I guess fall into the carnivore space.
Well, yeah. I mean, Rick, he's been eating this way for what, 40 years. So if he's eating iguanas and he's healthy, it's probably done him very well. Maybe when he stands against this background, he'd turn purple. I don't know. Or am I mixing up with chameleons?
Chameleon.
But yeah.
But we do have fun in this space. I mean, there's humor, there's generosity, there's kindness, but there's also, we're not here chastising anyone's diet. Whatever you want to eat, eat.
And I think these labels, you're right about the omnivore, herbivore, carnivore thing, because, you know, I've seen a deer eat a small chick, but that would not say, oh, well, actually, that's an omnivore, you know, or a herbivore. I would say that's just a deer that has decided to go off piste a little bit. We've got squirrels over here that eat meat, which is not what you'd expect a squirrel to eat. So I think it's about survival. And what you said, if you go back to Australopithecus, and we've got a skeletal remains, which I think is called Lucy. She was predominantly, you know, she's a human ancestor from, you know, over 1 million years ago. And she predominantly did eat plants, but she's got the bow legs. You know, she looks like a cross between a modern human and, you know, a chimpanzee. Well, they died out. That race died out because it wasn't practical to compete with hominins, who were eating meat. And that's when we start to get bigger brains and we start to be taller. And then about, you know, 1.5 million to maybe 700,000 years ago, you know, we were cooking food as well, which is very different to other animals. So it's how we've evolved, which is our phenotypical sort of reaction to our environment. And humans are smart. You know, if there's not bison to be tracked down and there's berries in a bush, why would they not eat them? You know, it's ridiculous that they definitely would. But, you know, if you're looking for nutrient density, taking down megafauna, which we could up until 12,700 years ago in abundance. Obviously, the Younger Dryas happened and there was a big wipeout situation where the megafauna died off and we became more sort of svelte and we became more of like a hunter-gatherer. If you look at history, we adapted. The human being is amazingly adaptive. And the reason that we're able to put body fat on is because it's a survival mechanism. You know, we have that fat to see us through winters and scarcity, but we're so clever. You know, we are so clever. We're also pretty stupid in many ways, by the way. The people that are in power, I think, are the biggest idiots I've ever seen. But anyway, that's a different subject. But the average human that has something about them and is interested in their health, it's pretty smart, and will find what they need to do if they're not lied to or corralled into eating the wrong things.
Is there really a simple answer? We made a complicated science out of simplicity here.
Yes.
Plants are poisonous. Meat is masterful. There are no poisons in beef like there are in plants. And the marketing mastery of the world is keeping us all weak and meek. And you're right. You mentioned brainwashing. Eat your vegetables, 3 meals a day plus snacks in between. You have to fuel your metabolism. What other things have we lived with that really have led us astray?
Well, I think the obsession with some humans for power and control. I mean, I think that's a real thing. I don't want to be too political, but you're absolutely right. Occam's razor is always true, isn't it? The simplest thing is often the easiest thing to follow. But there are, let's be realistic, Robert. You turn on the mainstream TV and you are definitely being told not to eat red meat. You are definitely told in different ways, oh, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for your health. Look at this study. If you look at, say, the Framingham study, that started off saying all the true things, proper observation. And when that didn't go how they planned, they literally started looking at the younger people in there because, that showed that people over 50, they're better with higher levels of LDL cholesterol and that there were better health outcomes. That didn't fit the narrative. So we're, human beings, the average human being is constantly fighting misinformation. That's the biggest thing. And now our good information is being clamped down on. This is the problem. As you know, when you go live on YouTube, there's certain things you can't say. I think it's a bit freer than it was maybe 3 years ago. But where do you get that information? Well, you have to do the special communities like the Mighty Tribe. We've got the school community where you can speak a bit freer behind paywalls. But the average person, I get it all the time when I'm out, family, eat in moderation, fat's bad for you. You can only push back against that, and you don't want to be that guy, do you? My joke about how do you know someone is a vegan? Because they tell you. We don't want to be that sort of ramming it down people's throats. We want to be the example, and sadly, we are fighting over that. You are right, Rob. It's simple. It is simple. But it's made complicated, and it's made complicated deliberately. You look at medical terminology. Why is it Latin? Well, it's Latin to make it very confusing. If you look at the piriformis muscle, that sounds a bit technical. It literally means pear-shaped. It's a muscle that someone looked at and went, that's pear-shaped. We don't call it the pear-shaped muscle. We call it the piriformis. And medications and the medical establishment is riddled with, their own version of hieroglyphics to make it difficult. And we have to break down the words all the time and say, this isn't complicated. It's really simple. Gluconeogenesis is new genesis being, new glucose being made. It's all of it simple, and we need to demystify it. And I think that's what you're good at. I think that's what, Anthony Chafee's good at. Oh, Ken Berry, everyone, Bella, we're all good at that, I think. But it's still a big fight because it's like a David and Goliath thing. I haven't got billions of pounds. I haven't got the world's greatest studio. I can't do loads of advertising. I can't be peak time advertising, on the Super Bowl, but Coca-Cola can, Coca-Cola can, where you've got this. I mean, here's a simple thing that I said the other day, and someone said, I never thought of that. If you look at a can of Coke, right, that is 9 teaspoons of sugar. If a human drinks that, we got roughly 5 litres of blood. So that's the concentration. It's about 9 times as much as we need in our blood glucose. What about a child? Child has the same can of Coke, but they've got half the amount of blood. So the concentration from that can of Coke is twice as much straight away. But that's a nuance. And someone said, I haven't even thought of that. I used to give my kid a can of Coke, and we'd share a can, I'd have a can, he'd have a can, we'd share a day out, and we both have it. I said, well, yeah, you've doubly poisoned your child compared to you. So for them, that's the equivalent of like maybe 18 times as much as you need, as opposed to 9 times as much as you need. And all these, if we can if we can literally dilute, no pun intended after what I just said, if we can dilute the message to really simple things, constantly getting away from the terminology or explaining the terminology, then people will understand it. When I do the diabetes stuff, I always say, look, before we have blood tests, how do we diagnose diabetes? Right. Well, we would look at symptoms. And that's just a posh way of saying, what's troubling you? What is ailing you? And what's the problem? So they'd come in and they'd say, well, I drink ever such a lot. I can't quench my thirst and I'm always urinating. Right. Why is that diabetes? Well, it's pretty obvious. You are being clever, trying to dilute that sugar concentration in your bloodstream, and you're trying to then expel it by urinating. So you don't need a blood test. I mean, diabetes mellitus literally means passing through sugary urine. Actually, it's a mixture of Greek and Latin. There you go again. So what did they used to do before blood tests and all the fancy pants equipment? They'd get yes, exactly. They'd get their assistant probably to drink a bit of urine and go, oh yeah, wow, that's really sweet. So you've got what the Asians used to call the saccharine disease. 2,000 years ago, they were calling it saccharine disease. So diabetes has been around, but it was always the rich people that got it. Always the rich people, and because the poor people didn't have the money, because sugar was a commodity early on, not now, like, it's abundant and everywhere and really cheap. So yeah, well, I think just trying to do things like I just did, just make it really simple and look at how you feel and how you look, your energy levels. That's the way ahead, because you can't have someone saying, well, these numbers say you are perfect when you're not. That's really common. Someone will say, I've got an achy joint, but I've had an x-ray and the doctor said there's nothing wrong with me. Well, there is. You've got an achy joint. So we need to get to the bottom of it. It's that simple, isn't it?
Do you think that the push for a high protein diet could be also a misnomer like a high sugar diet has been in the past? Because fat may be actually the most important thing to eat, but we still don't prioritize it in general, do you think? What are your thoughts?
That's a good question. Yeah. I think there are people that push high. See, this is where you got this pejorative term, high. Is it high compared to the average standard American diet, or is it, empirically too much? Which you can have too much anything. You can have too much water. Fat and protein together is the key, isn't it? If you had no fat, you would not survive. If you had no protein, you wouldn't survive. And if you think about it, some people like Bella, for instance, she's been big on high fat diets. And I think the term high fat definitely is in this space. I'm not a fan of high, low, medium, whatever. I'm into what's appropriate. Eat what's appropriate for you and what makes you thrive. So you can try this. I'm not prescriptive in any way, shape or form. You could do what many people call a high fat diet. I don't know, 80% fat, 20% protein, obviously, just showing that I can do some maths. And you might not thrive. But if you reduce the fat a little bit and increase the protein, you might feel really great. Or vice versa. You might be doing a minimal amount of fat and a sort of lean protein diet and feel terrible. So therefore you need more fat. But in the end, nature is wonderful. What's an egg? By weight, ratio is 1-to-1, protein to fat. Of course, you need to have fat to metabolize amino acids. This is the often forgotten thing. So when you eat fat, you produce bile. Bile doesn't just emulsify fat. It also optimizes your amino acid absorption. So it seems like nature, someone somewhere a long time ago, be it creation or evolution, wherever you want to, somebody somewhere thought, this is a really good way to make this human being thrive. We're made out of protein and fats. We need fat. Fat is great.
What about sugar?
Well, our body makes the sugar that we need. We don't have to ingest dietary sugar, but sugar is definitely something that the body uses ever such a lot. It's not a bad thing, but the overconsumption of sugar definitely is.
But when we say sugar, we're talking really about cane sugar. We're talking about concentrated sweet stuff. But aren't there sugars in every cell of every organism?
Yeah, absolutely.
Glycocalyx.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
it's
so
got the word
when
glyco in it.
So when we eat animals or plants, we're getting fats, sugars, and proteins, amino acids. And so we're missing the glycocalyx story in all of this, because when we eat food, it comes with sugars, it comes with proteins, amino acids, and it comes with fatty acids. So are there essential sugars, but nobody's talking about the glycocalyx and the
Well, I mean,
glycobiome?
well, I think Ivor Cummins talked about the glycocalyx probably 7-8 years ago. I think it is underestimated in the wider space. Just for people that don't know what it is, your arteries have this glycocalyx, which under the microscope looks like hairs. And the reason it wasn't talked about was because as soon as somebody takes the artery out of the body, it dies. It dies off. You can only see it in situ. And they showed, once they was able to show it in situ, that when you eat carbohydrates, which is different. We're talking about dietary carbohydrates, in vast quantities, it killed off the glycocalyx. But I know what you're saying, which is, we've got glycans, which are really important, absolutely important. And I know that every sort of...
And they're in every cell of every organism. And so when we eat every organism, we're getting sugars. So is it possible that actually without those sugars in those cells, which provide sugars that are critical for more glycosylation, and we're missing that science in a huge way, because ultimately you either eat plants or animals, and cane sugar for one, or beet sugar or other sweet sugars are concentrations of mostly glucose, but it may have other things in them also that we don't even talk about that could be a factor in our health and wellness. But what you're saying is essentially, because when we say sugar, people do add sugar, but people really eat plants or animals in our diets, right?
Yeah, but the liver makes all the glucose or sugar that we need because the body's pretty smart.
Right. But we eat cells that contain many other sugars that we don't even talk about in this space, and then we assume gluconeogenesis is a thing in a petri dish. But how many of those sugars that you eat that come from meat are utilized in your glycocalyx production?
I wouldn't know that. I don't think that anyone can say how much, but
But we know that every membrane of every cell contains a glycocalyx. So that just is an area that we miss. That's all I'm saying, is we miss its importance. And that, I mean, the liver makes fat. Which one's more important, it making fat or it making sugar? I wonder.
Well, it has a role, doesn't it? It's a bit like saying, a hybrid car, for instance, that's got gas, as you call it, or petrol, as we call it. So it's got a battery that's charged up, but it also has a key. And you can't have all of those things as the most important thing, because they all work together. So without the key, you can't make the car go. But that doesn't mean the petrol and the battery are not important. So I think, and I'm likening the key to maybe the sugar, because I think, yes, glycosylation is like the gift wrapping of proteins. It's a signaling thing. So I think it is not talked about maybe as much as it should be. And I think, glycoproteins, and I know you're big into glycans. And I think when we talk about plants, for instance, or yeast or fungi, or sort of even non-human mammals, when you look at the glycans, and I think a picture paints 1,000 words. If you, and I say this also with molecules as well, when you start to look at them, and you look at how different they all are. So we got like 9 glycans as a human, and then let's use plants. So the glycans in plants are very different to humans. Maybe that's a huge factor in allergies, the allergic reaction, because we're ingesting, just a few of these glycans, and the body's like, well, this is a non-human glycan. It's a signal that I don't really want.
Well, there are billions of glycans, but there are 9 simple sugars ish that make up the order of sugars that make up the glycan. And the beauty of sugars is there are billions of different types of molecules that you can create with that, which has changed from, simple 21 amino acids can make, 400,000 proteins, but you can make billions of glycoproteins. And just something that I think when we talk about sugar, really people are sick from a plant-based, protein-based, lean meat diet, because there is something called protein poisoning, which I'm wondering if that's something, that's kind of where I was trying to sort of go with this. Are we missing the point that most people are eating a low animal fat diet, even many carnivores, which may still contribute to a lot of their problems?
Well, yeah, I think that's the thing. People are asking me, by the way, do you have difficulty sometimes understanding American lingo? No, I've been doing this a long time. And Robert doesn't use lingo.
We're all English.
Yeah. I've also got an honours degree in English, by the way. And I had somebody say to me, oh, I hate you dealing with Americans. They say the word gotten. And I said, well, actually, that's an English word that we've lost, that they've retained. So anyway, to answer your question, yeah, firstly, I think when somebody comes to me that's been vegan, vegetarian, calorie restricted, by the way, I don't think of calorie restriction. I call it nutritional deficient, because they're deliberately under eating what they need. But yeah, to answer your question on the fat side of things, they will have a problem with maybe their thyroid hormone production. Now, the functional units of the thyroid should be able to store up to 50 days worth of thyroid hormone. But they come to me and they can't even produce a day's worth. They're having problems producing that because they're not eating enough fat. So without a shadow of a doubt, fat is absolutely essential. Just using that as one example. So you say to them, or maybe you need to up your fats. And then you get the brainwashing side of the person saying, yeah, but I don't want to gain any weight. I'm like, I don't care about that at the moment. I want you to gain function. We need to get your health back. Body composition is a side effect of being healthy. It isn't the goal. If someone comes to me and says, I want to fix my thyroid, but more importantly, I want to lose weight, I say, right, we'll switch that round. Let's fix your thyroid. And I think your weight problems will resolve themselves. And normally the cure to that is to get rid of the plants and increase the fat. And that works. Going back to the bloods, and here's where the bloods are good, in that some people need that empirical data. They need to see the numbers, basically, even if they're feeling better, even if their weight is stabilizing, even if their energy is better, they still want to see things like the TG and TPO antibodies have gone down. They want to see that their T3 production is good. They want to see their T4 production is good, and obviously conversion of T4 to T3 in the peripheral tissue, and the TSH. They sometimes want to make the doctor happy. Well, that's not going to be good on carnivore, because those numbers, when you eat low carb, keto, and carnivore, are different. We have much lower levels of T3. But I want to keep it simple. I won't get into the science too much, because I know you like to keep it simple. The cure was adding fat. It's a cofactor to the production of thyroid hormone. Taking out the plants, definitely. Some plants definitely damage the thyroid. So that works as well. So to answer your question, yes. Now, some people do eat too much protein. I think the problem there is that's more to do with satiety signaling. Fat is the thing that makes you feel full. You can listen to your body more. I think when you have fat, I think it is better for your digestion to have protein and fat together rather than, just lean protein, because then you get into the realms of rabbit starvation as well, which has been proven, where people have eaten raw meat that is very lean, or cooked meat that's very lean, and they haven't done well. And that shows the importance of fat. But the same can be said if you had an all-fat diet, you would struggle after about 70 days for the average person because you would become sarcopenic. In fact, I mean, that's one of the things I find quite interesting, how brilliant the body is. If you was to look at somebody fasting or someone just eating fat, the person fasting would actually survive longer because you would kick into autophagy and some other mechanisms where they're breaking down proteins to keep you going. Obviously, if you've got body fat, that's important to say. If you're very lean, that's different kettle of fish again.
When you say fat, because maybe this is part of the problem, because adipose tissue, raw fat, contains every mineral, vitamin, building block of the body and the fuel of the body. A polar bear and many other animals hibernate and gestate and grow babies and come out healthy without muscle or bone loss.
No, I disagree with that. I'm going to disagree.
I'm just giving you science studies on that. And so ultimately, this is where adipocytes, raw fat, nobody's eating raw fat. They eat rendered fat. And I'm just wondering if that might be part of our problem. Avocado, is an avocado fat or a fruit?
It's a fruit, isn't it? But it does have fat in it.
My daughter would die to an avocado. It's highly toxic for her. And a
Yes.
banana. Yes. I mean, how many people are allergic to ribeye steak? Raw. And how many other animals cook their food?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the fat thing there. I mean, when you look at bears hibernating, they definitely lose muscle mass. They definitely lose bone density. So I wouldn't agree with you on that because I think fat doesn't have nitrogen, so you can't make amino acids from it. I think once it's in the body is able to recycle stuff.
Well, the adipocyte contains glycocalyx, which contains proteins, amino acids, fatty acids, cholesterol, minerals and vitamins, and contains also the sugars that are critical for the building blocks of the body. That's why we can fast for so long and we can be healthier than we've ever imagined and I think we undervalue adipose tissue and obesity. We claim that you're obese, you're sick, but in fact, it's not the fat that might cause your diseases. It's the food you've been eating, which turns out to be poisonous and goitrogenic.
Yeah, I would have to see. Yeah, I mean, this is why I have people on. I wouldn't agree with that because when you look at bears hibernating, they do lose muscle mass and they do lose bone density. And I think there is definitely a lack of the ability to build amino acids just from fat. But if you've got stuff about that, I'm quite happy to look at that. But I don't think that's true.
The chylomicron and the VLDL is actually a fat protein sugar molecule that delivers all the building blocks to every cell. And the adipocyte is the storage of all of that. So that's kind of this is sort of my craziness that I think, and again, I'm giving you radical ideas that we don't talk about in this space. And that's why I've always admired you for open and talking about ideas that, again, maybe even us in the carnivore space, again, back to the glycobiome, it is like that one area where I've been talking about for years and sharing this idea, but we haven't quite caught on yet, but one day.
Yeah. And
questions for Stephen Thomas?
We do.
Let's get on some questions because he's.
We're almost out of time. We only got 10 minutes. Okay, so Michael Smith. Hi, Thomas. Stephen. How is the man in Austin, Texas? He was stage 5 kidney failure. I watched the podcast.
Yeah, thriving. This is it. I mean, one of the things that's good about these success stories And I will tell you a story. I know Robert loves the stories, and I'll tell you one from the meetup that we just did. He's doing really well, and that led to a lot of people talking to me about kidney failure. Well, kidney failure isn't driven by anything other than things like diabetes or high blood pressure. The kidney, if you fix the diabetes or if you fix the high blood pressure, then you start to fix the kidney. So I've had somebody that was told they had 2 weeks to live, and that was 6 years ago, and they're still thriving. So I've had many people with their GFR, glomerulus
both problems are the way, the kidney and what was the other thing you mentioned?
Diabetes, blood pressure.
Diabetes, yeah. The blood pressure and the diabetes are what is damaging the kidney, but it's not that they're damaging the kidney directly. It's the vasculature, the microvasculature in the kidneys is being damaged by the diabetes and the hypertension.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it's not the kidney itself in isolation that's just going unpacking up. But to answer that question, he's doing really well. But since then, I've had a lot of people come to me where they've been kidney filtration rate of 29, 30, and they've got it up to over 60. So in the UK, it needs to be over 60. They prefer it over 90. But there's a big nuance to this as well, which goes back to the blood testing, because the eGFR, which is the estimated GFR, the filtration rate of the kidney, is estimated based on creatinine, which is a waste product of protein. So when you eat this way, you're eating more protein, so you have a bigger waste product of creatinine, and that it's just an artifact of the maths that the GFR comes down, and people think you've got kidney failure when you haven't. You're just eating more protein. So the way around this is to do the cystatin C test, which is not dependent on protein metabolism. And I've got in the book some case studies. One in particular just comes to mind where she said her eGFR was just in the low 60s. Everyone's freaking out, nephrologists, cardiologists, and all that sort of stuff. And she came to me and I said, do a cystatin C. Now, her filtration rate was allegedly, like I say, low 60s. She did the cystatin C. It was 112. 112, which puts her into the spectacular filtration rate. So I mentioned this story at the Great British Meetup, which George Goodenough and Carl organised, and there were some great people there. And I hope I can get a Stephanie Taylor quoted in a minute to about blood glucose. So remind me of that, Alia. She came up to me afterwards, and she's got a 10-year-old son running around playing, looking fantastic. And she said, she's South African. I will try to do the accent. Hey, Stephen, do you think he's got kidney failure? And I'm like, no, he looks really healthy and vital and fantastic. Well, we're going on the GFR, and they reckon he needs a transplant. We reckon that, they reckon he needs some sort of diagnostic testing for his kidney. I've never heard of the cystatin C. So she's going to do a cystatin C. And invariably, that always is higher, and it always stops the problems. Just going back to blood glucose and that meeting, by the way, Stephanie Taylor, who is a cancer survivor, and if you've not had her on, she's amazing.
Yeah.
She uses one phrase about what we do with our glucose, our blood glucose, and that we're always eating so much glucose. We're not fueling our body, we're flooding our body. And I thought that summed it up nicely. We're flooding it, not fueling it. And, so all these little phrases, I think, stick and help people. But the kidney, thanks for the question about the kidney. He's Eric, fantastic guy, doing very well.
Great. Here's the next question. Primal Lifestyle. For someone who had skin cancer, what protection should be used on the skin, as most have horrible chemicals in it?
Oh, right. Okay. Well, sorry, firstly, to hear that you had the skin cancer. I'm assuming that's gone, as you're asking that question. Well, it's just been about being sensible. So if you want to be outside, obviously don't go in the midday sun. Going back to that blood glucose spiking thing I said about eating outside, actually it increases the blood glucose spike if you eat at midday or when the sun is at its highest. But if you eat in the evening or the morning, then it lowers the blood glucose spike. So that is quite telling about how sunlight or your environment can be really influential. Personally, I would just go back to, I use tallow. I use a tallow soap, and I eat plenty of fat. Oh, Robert, you're going to like this answer, because I think fat is key here. I think you need, subcutaneous fat. I think you need to eat a lot of fat, because I think that's one of the protective mechanisms of the skin. But I just think gradual exposure, a bit like when you first come to carnivore, I think slow transition is good. Exactly. If you're going back out in the sun, I would just do it slowly. Make sure that you're not stupid. Don't get burnt. That's about the worst thing you can do. If you're feeling hot, your skin feels hot, get in the shade, but just do a little bit at a time, a little bit. Just increase your light sensitivity. Remember that when it comes to skin cancer, 75% of skin cancers in the Western world are in places that are not exposed to the sun. And Malcolm Kendrick, in his book, The Clock Thickens, as a little aside, mentions that he's got dermatologist studies all saying the same thing, that it's not the sun that was causing it. Dermatologists. So,
Plants. Plants cause it.
I would remove plants. Yes, remove plants.
The plants and the microbes fermenting in your gut cause all your disease, and a low-fat diet.
Do you have more questions, Alia?
We do. Let's see. What's the best type of water to drink? Spring, sparkling, still, salted, mineral?
Well, we have. I live near Buxton, which has a natural spring, and they sell bottled water. It should be in glass, by the way. But as part of their helping the community, you can actually go to the spring with an empty bottle, and you can fill it up for free. All right, which I think is fantastic. So I've got no affiliation with Buxton Water, but if you don't live near me, you can't do that. So I actually use Tau water, TAU, which is a sparkling mineral water. Yes, I like mineral water. Now, if you are feeling bloated with mineral water, that's because it's not naturally sparkling. It is carbonated. So anything you ingest has to be processed. If you're not able to process the carbon dioxide in there, it becomes carbonic acid and you get bloated. So if you're getting bloated after drinking sparkling water, I would go for still, but I would definitely do mineral water. Our tap water we don't touch with a barge pole, but we have reverse osmosis on it for things like making cups of tea. I don't drink tea, but Jane does. So yeah, that's the best type of water to drink. I would say mineral, sparkling if you're missing the sodas and you can cope with it, still mineral water if you feel gassy or bloated. Can you salt it? Yes, I think electrolytes are a handy thing to add. A little bit of salt every so often is good. If you have a headache, for instance, a little bit of salty water can often get rid of it in 20 minutes. So yeah, good question. Again, and simple, isn't it? It's really simple.
How much is too much salt? Can you consume too much salt?
Well, yeah, your body has this wonderful way of saying, oh, that's too salty. So I think that's the thing. You can drink too much. If your urine is clear, then you're drinking too much water. So drink to thirst and eat to taste. I mean, that's why we have taste receptors. That's why things are sour. So you stick it near your nose and go, whoa, I shouldn't be eating that. We have the olfactory senses, which is about 80% of our taste. In the last 5 years, something went around where you'd lose your sense of smell. People were like, oh, but I don't enjoy food anymore because I can't smell it. So all of these senses are there for us to use. So if I put too much salt in that water and I went, oh, wow, that's too much salt. I'm having too much salt.
Is consumption of small amounts of honey harmful from time to time?
Yep, fructose. For a start, that will go, oh, you love the liver. So, yeah.
How about a piece of ripe fruit from time to time?
Right. If it's in your garden, we've got an apple tree. If it's a bush down the road that we have in Britain where there's a blackberry, yes, you could eat that. You'd probably be okay because the body is brilliantly adaptive to little bits of whatever, as long as it's not covered in glyphosate. If you look at in our school community, I've got a bit about fruit and veg, and I was able to get all the PDFs from all different fruit growers. So that apple that's on your supermarket shelf was picked over a year ago.
Where? And where? Right, where in the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If I was to have a blueberry, which incidentally, you shouldn't eat blueberries if you're on blood thinners, because it interferes with that particular mechanism. If I wanted to eat a blueberry, it'd have to be flown from Spain, which is like, 1,000 miles away. And also it's been covered. See, the other thing is, wash your blueberries, right? So you get your blueberries in a little colander and you turn your tap on and you think, that's going to get rid of all the chemicals, right? Those chemicals have a compound in them that stop that being washed away in a monsoon. I mean, that's what these chemical companies can do. They spray the crops with herbicides and fungicides and pesticides, and they definitely make those chemicals stick to the surface. So you turning on your tap is not the same as 4 hours of torrential rain, which those chemicals on those plants, have been put on to protect them from those things. So, wow, we went off the question there.
And we're in an hour. We got to do the giveaway now.
Giveaway. Stephen, thank you for always being such a generous, kind sharing of your knowledge and just simply listening. How much does it cost to watch you on YouTube?
On YouTube, you can look up Coach Stephen or Stephen Thomas, Bachelor of Science with Honours. That's another way. You'll see myself and Richard Smith every single Sunday, 7 p.m. for a whole hour for a free question and answer session. That's
Awesome.
the best way. I've got a Substack with all the references and sciences that we talk about. And that's the UK Carnivore .substack.com, and Instagram, UK Carnivore. Not a big fan of Instagram. Sorry if you're on Instagram, but I think that's the best way.
Cool.
All right, Larry Mudbone, congratulations. Please email me, alia@drkiltz.com, and I need your address, and we'll get you your books. How exciting.
But look at that beard, though. Wow.
It's amazing.
Hey. Was he the guy that sang the song? You got legs, you know how to use that one?
I don't know the song.
ZZ Top.
Do you have any meetup coming up or travels coming up and do you have anything you're working on that you want to share?
Yes. Well, the thing I think you're alluding to, I can't say until October. But anyway, we'll talk about that another time, Robert. Yes, the Ancestral Health Festival, the 15th to 16th of August at Rainford in the UK. Phil Ascott is organising that. We've got the wonderful David Unwin. For those that don't know, David Unwin is a general practitioner in the UK who has been doing this wonderful work, reversing type 2 diabetes with a low-carb diet, not even carnivore or keto. He does like those sort of things. Many case studies, and he's doing really well. Well done, Larry. Yeah, you're right. He's there, Jen Unwin. She'll be talking about food addiction and her fight to get it recognised as a medical condition. Jen is fantastic. Richard Smith's there, talking about probably electrolytes or biochemistry or genetics, so he's probably got a whole day to himself. I'll be there. I'm struggling now to remember everybody, but yeah, the Ancestral Health Festival. Phil Escott will be there, and maybe we'll be able to drop a link to you to put in the description to this video. Maybe.
Yeah, let's get that, Ali, and make sure we put that
Sure.
in, because we're all traveling the world, and the beauty is we're sharing ideas of health and wellness that maybe are outside standard medical science. Whoa.
Yes.
Occam's razor.
Exactly.
Simple answer is the one.
And we've run out of time, isn't it? But there you go.
We have run out of time. That was so fast. Well, everybody.
Pleasure,
Well,
everyone.
see you
Thank you.
Monday.
Thank you. We had Instagram, we had Kiltz Mighty Tribe, and YouTube, Facebook, and all the others. And so thank you also. Dr. Nelson, do you have anything? Today's Friday. So next week, right?
Next week, because we're traveling, we won't have the afternoon lives, but we'll be in San Diego every morning at 6 a.m. or at
Wow.
3 a.m. local time.
Do you want to
But
do
I'll-
them
I'll
at
be
6 a.m. San Diego time? I can arrange that. Or no, for our people here who want to be here at 6 a.m.
We'll figure it out. I'll be up at 3 a.m. for the.
Okay.
Maybe we get
All right.
Stephen to help co-host with you, Ali, or Richard. Richard and
I'll get Richard.
if you guys, one of the best places to go to listen to the expertise on keto, carnivore, health and wellness, many ideas, is both Stephen Thomas, Richard Smith, And you said Sunday. What's your weekly
7 p.m. UK time.
UK time? Awesome.
Yeah.
Sunday.
which is
Yeah.
like
1 p.m.
1 or
12 p.m.
so
1 p.m. Eastern. Yeah. All right, everybody. See you next week. Thanks for being here. Goodbye.
Always a pleasure.